Did you know Kamala Harris did some serious homework on her husband before their very first date?
She said, don't Google him. I did.
And Douglas Emhoff actually left his old life behind, all for the ambitious wife.
He's just fully authentic and clear about the things he cares about. And it's family, it's his work.
You.
And me.
On top of that, Kamala has become a loving co-parent to his kids. Their love story is both amazing and inspiring, like the perfect rom-com. So get ready to hear how this power couple found each other and is making history together. After the 2020 election, Kamala Harris became the first woman, Black person, and individual of South Asian descent to serve as U.S. Vice President. If she wins, she'll also be the first woman to become President of the United States. Her husband, Douglas Emhoff, already holds the titles of the first ever second gentleman and the first Jewish spouse of a U.S. president or vice president. What's more, he could also become the first gentleman in American history, and these days, he might have another title to add to his list.
Kamala Harris's husband, a sex symbol?
Yes, you heard that right. Doug's even been called a dreamboat for how amazingly he supports Kamala, leaving her fans seriously impressed.
I am her husband. She has plenty of people around her giving her advice on her role. I'm just there to support her, to be there for her.
For example, an old video of Doug protecting his wife from a pushy animal rights protester is still going viral online. Back in 2019, 24-year-old Aiden Cook snatched the microphone from then-Senator Harris's hands at the Big Ideas Forum in San Francisco. Emhoff didn't hesitate. He jumped on stage with the security guards to intervene.
But we want to make sure that we are able to get through this. Okay, it's okay, folks, it's okay.
And not too long ago, he even personally reached out to Donald Trump. Doug stood up for his wife with a speech that was truly one of a kind.
I know you have so much trouble pronouncing her name, but here's the good news. After the election, you can just call her Madam President.
The second gentleman also spoke at the 2024 Democratic National Convention, where he described Harris as a joyful warrior, emphasizing her strength and moral clarity.
I trusted Kamala with our family's future. It was the best decision I ever made.
Even though Harris wasn't at the event, she proudly watched her husband's speech live from her laptop. What a lovely moment, right?
I wanted to make sure it honored her and explain to the world the person that I love so much.
So how did it all begin for these two? Actually, their story started with a blind date. It was arranged by Harris's best friend, Chrisette Hudlin, who's like a sister to her. Chrisette had met a cute guy from Los Angeles and thought he'd be perfect for then-single Kamala.
It was a woman, and she said, "Are you single?" I said, "Why are you asking me that? Are you single?" I said, "Well, maybe." Do you know Kamala Harris, the Attorney General? Yeah. I think you guys would be great together. I'm like, okay.
Douglas didn't even try to hide it. He was well aware who he wanted to be introduced to at that moment.
I said, how do I know that name? She's the Attorney General. I said, oh my God, she's hot. That Kamala.
And Kamala took her first date with a stranger seriously, starting by doing a bit of background check.
You totally Googled him, didn't you?
Ooh, this is a reveal.
I've never been asked that. I did. Dougie.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, that's so funny you asked me that question.
First, Emhoff sent her a somewhat awkward text while he was at a basketball game. Later, he left a voicemail that was long and a little rambling.
The next morning, I made what I thought was a critical error. I decided early, I had an early meeting, I'm in the car, I was like, don't dial that number. Don't do it.
What time is this?
7:30 a.m.
7:30 in the morning?
Yeah. So I dial the number, of course she doesn't answer. And then I'm like, hey, it's Doug.
He thought this was a complete disaster and was sure Kamala wouldn't want to see him. But it turned out to be the opposite. He intrigued her, and the then California Attorney General was eager to get to know him better. Well, here's another interesting detail from the very beginning.
Kamala saved that voicemail, and she makes me listen to it on every anniversary.
It was love at first sight for both of them. There was no pretense or posing with Doug, No arrogance or boasting, Harris wrote in her 2019 book, The Truths We Hold.
We were literally talking about our future by the end of that first date, and that next morning I'm sending her an email. Here are my availabilities for the next 6 months. And 10 years later, 11 years later, here we are.
According to Doug, they just couldn't get enough of talking to each other, and he was also charmed by Kamala's laughter.
And we talked for an hour, and we laughed. Well, you know that laugh. I love that laugh.
By the way, they believe that jokes and a cheerful attitude are key to their relationship.
Doug is extremely patient. Really, he is. And he has an incredible sense of humor. It's important to be able to laugh at yourself and each other, and we do a healthy amount of both of that.
Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff were married on August 22, 2014, at the Santa Barbara County Courthouse, just a year after their blind date. They had an intimate ceremony officiated by Harris's younger sister, Maya, and included the breaking of the glass, a Jewish wedding tradition. Interestingly, their 10th anniversary coincided with the day Kamala officially accepted her presidential nomination. She began her speech at the DNC in Chicago by talking about her husband.
Let me start by thanking my most incredible husband, Doug, for being an incredible partner to me, an incredible father to Cole and Ella, and happy anniversary, Dougie. I love you so very much.
Harris's husband has always been by her side as her career took off. In 2017, she was elected as a U.S. Senator from California, and just 4 years later, she was sworn in as Vice President on the steps of the U.S. Capitol. Emhoff was immensely proud to become the second gentleman, although he had to give up his own successful career. He took a leave of absence from his entertainment law job, where he was earning about $1 million a year.
When I became vice president, he stepped back from his career as a lawyer, and he is doing this full time. He's also teaching a law school class.
In his new role as a second gentleman, Doug tackled serious issues like access to legal aid, combating anti-Semitism, and fighting for abortion rights. He also took on ceremonial duties, including leading the U.S. delegation at the closing of the 2024 Paris Olympics. Yet, he still sees his main mission as providing personalized support for his wife.
He feels a sense of responsibility to model what it means to be a supportive spouse, whatever your gender, right? Mm-hmm. But to challenge notions of who is a supportive spouse based on gender, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm.
Doug sees Kamala as a clear leader, both at work and in their family. Even when they have arguments, she always comes out on top.
You know, as couples, you have these, I won't call them arguments, I call them discussions. And every single time we get into a debate at home, I realize I already lost because she's such a good lawyer. She's always planted these little traps for me that I always walk into.
It's worth noting that Harris has also built a wonderful relationship with her husband's children. Now grown Cole and Ella don't call her their stepmom. They use a different, very cute term for Kamala.
Their word for me is Mamala, and so they call me Mamala.
To my brother and me, you'll always be Mamala, the world's greatest stepmom.
And those of you who belong to blended families know that they can be a little complicated. But as soon as our kids started calling her Mamala, I knew we'd be okay.
They spend a lot of time together and have their own family traditions, including Sunday gatherings.
And there's no union more perfect than the one that brings us all to your kitchen table every Sunday night for stir-fry, feta chicken, or spaghetti and meatball family dinners.
In reality, Harris didn't rush into meeting Douglas's children. She saw it as a very serious step and wanted to approach it thoughtfully.
As a child of divorce, I knew how hard it could be when your parents start to date other people, and I was determined not to insert myself in their lives until Doug and I had established we were in this for the long haul.
Their first encounter happened 2 months after Harris and Emhoff started dating. She considers it one of the most special days of her life, with the butterflies in her stomach.
Our first date with the kids, we let them choose where we would go, and they chose the Real Inn. And it was the best day ever. I was very nervous.
In a 2021 New York Times interview, Cole also jokingly recalled how he prepared for that meeting. He was sure that his dad's new love interest would be a bit too strict.
It was a photo of Kamala at the Kavanaugh hearing, and someone tweeted like, "I'd hate to have to look at that face and explain why I'm late for curfew." And I was thinking, I've literally had to do that.
In the end, Doug's kids stayed smitten with Harris. They also couldn't believe how perfect the couple's relationship was.
Doug and Kamala together are like almost vomit-inducingly cute and coupley. I'm like, when is this gonna wear off?
It's like the honeymoon phase forever. Like the rest of the world gets to see it on social media, but we live that.
Harris says she always puts her family first, even with the challenges of her job.
The thing about blended families, if everyone approaches it in the way that there's plenty of love to share, then it works.
What's more, she quickly found common ground not only with the kids, but also with Doug's ex-wife.
One of the keys to my relationship with Cole and Ella is their mom. We're on the same team.
In a show of support, Kirsten Emhoff defended the loving, nurturing Harris against the baseless attacks from Republicans about her not having her own children. Moreover, in August, she posted a photo of herself with Doug and wrote,
"After 33 years of unwavering friendship and 2 amazing kids, I'm incredibly proud of this man and our blended family. I'm excited to spend the next 74 days working hard to help Doug and Kamala win this November."
Wow, what an endorsement. Harris herself says that without these people and her loving husband, her heart wouldn't be whole and her life wouldn't be complete. Do you think having such a supportive family will help her achieve her next big dream and become the President of the United States? Share your thoughts in the comments.